So, a few days ago, we made a video talking about John Klingberg, former Dallas Stars defenseman, current Anaheim Ducks defenseman, and how it was a really good move for the Ducks to sign this guy to the contract that they signed him to. 1 year, $7 million AAV. Well, okay, no, just $7 million because it's only 1 year, right? And this was a situation that I said was amazing for Anaheim because they're capitalizing on what is essentially a guy that did not get what he wanted. There is an entire chronicle of what happened with John Klingberg, the fact that he wanted a long-term extension with the Dallas Stars, how they weren't willing to give it to him, and how he wanted to get a little bit more term out of the teams that were trying to sign him during the free agency period. It led to him not really being taken right away and signing his contract a few weeks after free agency started, because after firing his agent, he eventually acquiesced to a shorter-term deal, and this one is so short, it's only 1 year long. He'll likely be a free agent again next year, and it was overall a pretty unfortunate situation when it comes to John Klingberg getting what it is that he wanted. Now, I wanted to expand a little bit on that sentiment in this video right here. How John Klingberg fumbled the bag and absolutely messed up his chances at getting a longer-term deal and really securing himself financially the next few years. This comes from an Instagram post on Puck Report NHL. They made an entire checklist of all the stuff that had happened with John Klingberg and how this whole story unfolded. So big shout out to these guys. I want to read the post that they made on Instagram for you here on the channel. This is the graphic attached to the post that they made. Fumbled the bag, John Klingberg did. Early in the 2021-2022 season, John Klingberg rejected an 8-year by $7.25 million AAV from Dallas. He wanted a minimum of 8 years by $8 million per. If you hadn't seen the video we had made about John Klingberg already, he's a very good offensive defenseman, good for 40 points on the year, 50 if you're lucky, and 60 if he's really on his game. He was under a point per game for the Stars when they made the Stanley Cup Finals, and he is just an overall puck-moving, point-scoring guy. Despite that, though, he did reject that $7.25 million AAV deal, which was met with a very mixed reception from NHL fans, because on one hand, okay, firstly, that contract is not a good contract heading into the long term. You have guys like Oliver Ekman-Larsson, for example, who fade away very quickly in terms of their offense, and as a result, their contracts look like absolute albatrosses. And for Klingberg, it's very strange because if he doesn't want this huge contract, what the hell else is he going to want? He's going to want more? Are you kidding me? And so the post talks about how at the beginning of the 21-22 season, he rejected an 8-year by $7.25 million deal, and in 2022 free agency, he was unsigned for 2 weeks, he fired his agent, and eventually settled for a 1-year, $7 million contract with the Ducks. This is the actual writing on the post that takes a deeper dive as to how he fumbled the bag. This info all comes from Jeff Merrick on the latest 32 Thoughts podcast, unless otherwise mentioned. The story begins at the start of the 21-22 season when Klingberg was offered $7 million, or $7.25 million, by 8 years. It was the Dallas Stars' only significant offer to Klingberg. He rejected it, wanting something in the $60 million range, likely an 8x8 contract, considering the pay bumps that guys like Nurse, Werenski, Jones, and others got. As mentioned in a previous post on Puck Report NHL, Frank Saravalli reported that the trade request and emotions after the players' talks with the Dallas Stars was a cause of him really wanting to stay. And you know, that's pretty interesting, but I do sort of understand where that's coming from. This may be a terrible analogy, but have you ever had those moments where you love something so gosh darn much that when you start to get disappointed by that thing, you threaten to leave all of it behind because you're so hurt by how that thing is treating you, but at the same time you love that thing so much? That's pretty much what Saravalli was reporting earlier in the year, that, hey, John Klingberg just really wants to stay in Dallas, and as a result, when he was offered a contract that he didn't feel was appropriate for the status of NHL defenders on the market, he felt really hurt by that. Then came free agency. Reports from multiple outlets earlier in the window suggested the market for Klingberg was not as robust as he and his camp had hoped. According to Jeff Merrick, the Carolina Hurricanes were probably the only team that was willing to offer a term longer than 3 to 4 years. Their interest ended when they acquired Brent Burns from the San Jose Sharks. Klingberg received a lot of 1-year, 3-year, and 4-year offers from other clubs. The Seattle Kraken were in there, per Elliot Friedman, but not to the point where he was hoping. Klingberg then fired his longtime agent Peter Wallen 2 weeks into free agency and hired $1 billion plus agent Craig Oster. His new agents re-engaged with teams who were believed to have interest prior, and they settled on a 1-year, $7 million contract with the Ducks. Here's the plan as well as highlighted in the post. Klingberg will try to rebound with the Anaheim Ducks. I almost said the fly together, but no. Man, the freaking hashtags on Instagram, it doesn't even really work that way. He'll try to earn himself the long-term, lucrative contract he's been looking for next summer. Now, it's kind of funny because all the comments here are kind of just... okay, they're being kind of ruthless here. Let's read some of the quotes here. I don't want to show off the usernames because it's Instagram, it's not Reddit, it's kind of different, you know. He's too old to get term. He should have realized that. This contract saves the Dallas Stars. He seriously rejected that like he even deserved most of it. Bro was too shy to tell his agent he changed ideas. Bro accidentally saved the Dallas Stars. And so... this is kind of the thing that I wanted to highlight here, how John Klingberg and his quote-unquote entitlement ended up fumbling the bag so hard for himself and his agent that now what would have been an 8-year deal, 7.25 AAV, is now a 1-year deal on a $7 million contract. I get it, Klingberg could have an amazing season with the Anaheim Ducks this year. Maybe he gets 50, 60 points, 70 points, let's say he breaks out, and he does that. Takes the spotlight away from Jamie Drysdale. He might get a good contract next year, but is that going to be in the range that he's looking for? $8 million by 7 years? Okay, wait, 8 times 7 is $56 million. So, if you do 8.25, for example, by 7 years, and he gets that in the free agent market, that's not even $60 million yet either. 8.5 million? That's $59.5 million. Is he going to get an $8.5 million deal by 7 years if he goes to free agency next year? I guess not. He's 29 years old right now. He'll be 30 by the time next season's free agency period comes along. Is any team going to shell out that amount of money for that long? For a guy who's 30 on the free agent market? I'm not really too sure, man. He's really going to have to prove himself. He's really going to have to just be an absolute Norris contender like he was a few years ago if he wants to get a sniff of that type of contract, because if he's looking for $60 million, hey, let's say $53 million because he's getting 7 on this year's 1-year deal. Let's do $53 million divided by 7 years. He should be looking for a contract that's in the $5.6 million AAV range. Now, if you're going to be able to get that, you're going to have to prove that you're worth it, and Klingberg has been declining in general as of the past few years as well, so I don't really think this is the most likely of all outcomes, but either way, talk to me in the comments your thoughts about Klingberg fumbling the bag, wanting a little bit more than he could chew, and eventually rejecting what would have been a crazy good deal in general because of it. Now he's settling for less, now he's hoping for more next season, and the possibility of that happening, while it's possible, I don't want to say it's all too likely. Do you agree? I don't know. Talk to me in the comments your thoughts about Klingberg, the Stars, the Ducks, and all of the stuff that we had from this post on Instagram. Big shout out, of course, to Puck Report NHL for the intricate dive and written out form as to what Jeff Merrick was talking about on the 32 Thoughts podcast. I hope you enjoyed this Juraj Trolls 99, and bye.